There comes a moment when the weight becomes almost unbearable. Perhaps it arrives quietly, in the stillness of a sleepless night. Perhaps it crashes through like a sudden storm. The loss of someone loved, a diagnosis that rewrites the future, or simply the accumulated heaviness of years filled with unanswered questions. You might wonder if peace is even possible anymore. But here is something beautiful: even in life's darkest valleys, a path toward light exists. Buddhist wisdom offers not escape from suffering, but transformation within it. Today, these teachings come to meet you exactly where you are, with compassion and the quiet promise that peace is still possible. Part 1. The present mind is key to peace, finding stillness in the here and now. There is an old Zen story that speaks directly to the human heart. A man was walking through the forest when he suddenly heard a rustling behind him. Turning, he saw a tiger, its eyes fixed upon him with unmistakable intent. The man ran. He ran until the ground disappeared beneath his feet, and he found himself tumbling over a cliff's edge. Desperately, he grabbed a vine growing from the rock face and hung there, suspended between the tiger above and a steep fall below. As he clung to the vine, he noticed two mice, one white and one black, beginning to gnaw at it. The vine would not hold much longer. In that moment of seemingly complete despair, the man noticed something else: a wild strawberry growing from a crack in the cliff, just within reach. He plucked it, placed it in his mouth, and tasted its sweetness fully. How delicious, he thought. This story may seem strange at first. A man facing certain danger, and he stops to enjoy a strawberry. But this is precisely the teaching. The tiger represents the past, always chasing, always threatening to consume us with regret and memory. The fall below represents the future, uncertain and often frightening. The two mice, white and black, symbolize the passing of days and nights, the relentless march of time that waits for no one. And the strawberry? The strawberry is in this moment, right now, the only moment that has ever truly existed. So much of human suffering comes not from what is actually happening, but from the mind's endless journeys into yesterday and tomorrow. The heart aches over words spoken years ago that cannot be taken back. The stomach tightens with worry about outcomes that may never come to pass. Meanwhile, the present moment, the only place where life actually unfolds, slips by unnoticed. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like water. When it is agitated, constantly stirred by thoughts of the past and future, everything appears distorted and unclear. But when the water becomes still, it naturally reflects reality as it truly is. This stillness is not achieved by forcing thoughts away or pretending problems don't exist. Rather, it comes from gently returning attention, again and again, to what is here now. Consider the simple act of breathing. Right now, in this very moment, breath is moving through the body. The heart is beating without any effort or instruction. Life is sustaining itself, moment by moment, with extraordinary faithfulness. When attention rests here, in this quiet miracle of being alive, something remarkable happens. The grip of worry loosens. The weight of regret becomes lighter. Not because circumstances have changed, but because the mind has found its natural resting place. An elderly woman once shared that after her husband of 52 years passed away, she found herself drowning in memories. Every corner of their home reminded her of what was gone. Every morning, she woke to the fresh wound of his absence. The past had become a prison. Then she discovered a practice of simply sitting with her morning tea, feeling its warmth in her hands, noticing the steam rising, tasting each sip as if it were the first and last. In those few minutes, she was not a widow weighted by loss. She was simply a woman, alive, breathing, holding something warm. It did not erase her grief, but it gave her small islands of peace within the ocean of sorrow. This is the power of presence. It does not demand that life be perfect. It does not require the absence of difficulty. It simply asks for attention, gentle and patient, to what is actually happening right now. The Buddha himself spoke of this when he said that the root of suffering is a mind that wanders away from the present moment. Peace is not found in some distant future when all problems are solved. Peace is found here, in the breath moving through the body, in the sounds present in this room, in the simple fact of being alive for one more precious day. Part 2. Release emotional burdens for lightness, setting down what was never yours to carry. There is another story, beloved in Zen tradition, that illuminates a profound truth about the weight many people carry unnecessarily. Two monks, one elder and one young, were traveling together when they came to a river with a strong current. A young woman stood at the water's edge, beautifully dressed, clearly afraid to cross. Without hesitation, the elder monk offered to carry her. He lifted her onto his back, waded through the rushing water, and set her safely on the opposite bank. She thanked him and went her way. The two monks continued walking in silence. Hours passed. Finally, unable to contain himself any longer, the young monk burst out, "How could you do that? We are monks. We are not supposed to touch women. Yet you carried her on your back." The elder monk looked at him calmly and replied, "I set that woman down hours ago by the river. Why are you still carrying her?" This story reveals something essential about the nature of emotional burden. So often, the heaviness people feel does not come from their own direct experiences, but from carrying what belongs to others or what has long since passed. Think of the expectations that may have been placed upon you throughout life. Perhaps a parent who expressed disappointment that you did not choose a certain path. Perhaps a society that suggested you should have achieved more, possessed more, become more. Perhaps the opinions of others, absorbed over decades, slowly convinced you that who you are is somehow not enough. These are borrowed burdens. They were never truly yours. And yet, many people carry them for years, even a lifetime, without ever questioning whether they must. Buddhist teaching offers a gentle but powerful invitation: examine what you are carrying. Hold each burden up to the light of awareness and ask, honestly, is this mine? Did this originate from my own heart, my own truth? Or did I pick this up somewhere along the way, believing I was required to carry it? There is a practice of sitting quietly and imagining all the burdens you carry as stones in a heavy bag upon your back. One by one, you take out each stone and look at it. This stone is my mother's unfulfilled dreams that she placed upon me. This stone is my ex-husband's anger that had nothing to do with my worth. This stone is society's message that I should be different from what I am. As each stone is recognized for what it truly is, it can be gently set down. Not with anger or resentment, but with the clear understanding that carrying it serves no one, least of all yourself. This does not mean abandoning responsibility or becoming uncaring. True compassion for others actually becomes more possible when you are no longer crushed beneath the weight that was never yours. A person who has set down borrowed burdens has more energy, more presence, more love to offer. Setting boundaries is not selfishness. It is wisdom. It is recognizing that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you cannot light the way for others if your own flame has been extinguished by carrying what you were never meant to carry. Part 3. Acceptance fosters inner freedom, the power of allowing what is. There is an ancient story from the East that has been told for generations, and its wisdom remains as relevant today as ever. A farmer had a beautiful horse that was the envy of his neighbors. One day, the horse ran away into the hills. The villagers came to the farmer and said, "What terrible luck! Your horse is gone." The farmer simply replied, "Maybe." A week later, the horse returned, bringing with it 3 wild horses. The villagers exclaimed, "What wonderful luck! Now you have 4 horses." The farmer replied, "Maybe." The next day, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, was thrown off, and broke his leg. The villagers lamented, "What terrible luck!" The farmer replied, "Maybe." The following week, military officers came to the village to draft young men for war. Seeing the son's broken leg, they passed him by. The villagers celebrated, "What wonderful luck!" And the farmer, once again, replied, "Maybe." This story illustrates one of Buddhism's most liberating teachings, acceptance. Not passive resignation, not giving up, but the profound recognition that resisting what has already happened is the source of immense unnecessary suffering. When something painful occurs, the natural response is often to fight against it mentally. This shouldn't have happened. This isn't fair. Why me? Why now? These thoughts are understandable. They are human. But they are also exhausting, and they change nothing about what has already occurred. The Buddha taught that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Pain is the initial experience, the raw fact of loss or difficulty or disappointment. Suffering is what happens when the mind adds layer upon layer of resistance, argument, and refusal to accept what is. Imagine a person who loses a cherished possession, perhaps something with deep sentimental value. The loss itself brings pain. That is natural. But then the mind begins its work. I should have been more careful. I'm so stupid. How could this happen? It's not fair. Hours, days, sometimes years are spent in this mental battle with reality. The energy that could be used for healing, for moving forward, for finding new sources of meaning, is instead consumed by fighting what cannot be changed. Acceptance does not mean approval. It does not mean saying that what happened was good or right or deserved. It simply means acknowledging that it has happened, and that no amount of mental resistance will alter that fact. There is enormous freedom in this. When you stop wrestling with reality, energy returns. Clarity emerges. The next step forward becomes visible. Acceptance is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning of healing. A woman who lost her home in a natural disaster shared that her turning point came when she finally stopped asking, "Why?" and began asking, "What now?" The loss was still real. The grief was still present. But she was no longer trapped in an endless argument with life. She could begin to rebuild, not just her external circumstances, but her inner world as well. If these words are resonating with something deep within your heart, perhaps offering comfort during a difficult season or putting words to feelings you have carried silently, consider taking a moment to share your experience in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what another person needs to hear today. And if you're finding peace in these teachings, please consider subscribing to Buddha Coha and pressing the like button. These simple actions help carry these ancient words of wisdom to other hearts that are searching for the same light. Now, let us continue this journey together. Part 4. Your thoughts shape your reality, becoming the gardener of your mind. There is a story from the time of the Buddha that reveals something essential about the nature of thought and its power. A man who opposed the Buddha came to him and began to insult him harshly, publicly, with great anger and cruelty. The Buddha listened calmly, his expression unchanged. When the man finally paused, exhausted from his tirade, the Buddha spoke gently. If someone offers you a gift, the Buddha asked, and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The man, confused, answered, it would remain with the person who offered it. Exactly so, the Buddha replied. You have offered me your anger, your insults, your harsh words. I do not accept them. Therefore, they remain with you. This story illuminates a truth that can transform daily life. You are not required to accept every thought that appears in the mind. Thoughts arise constantly, unbidden, like clouds passing through the sky. Some are pleasant, some neutral, some dark and troubling. But here is the crucial understanding: you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes them. This distinction changes everything. When a thought appears, perhaps a worry about health, a criticism of oneself, a fearful prediction about the future, there is often an automatic assumption that this thought is true, important, and demands attention. But this is simply a habit, not the truth. Buddhist practice invites a different approach. When a thought arises, observe it with gentle curiosity. Ah, here is a thought about the past. Here is a worry about tomorrow. Here is a judgment about myself. Notice it. Acknowledge it. And then, with great kindness, let it pass. Not every thought deserves a response. Not every mental whisper requires action. The mind generates thousands of thoughts each day, and the vast majority are simply noise, repetitive loops, and old patterns playing out automatically. The power lies in choice. You can choose which thoughts to water, to nurture, to allow to grow in the garden of your mind. And you can choose which ones to simply observe and release, like leaves floating past on a stream. This is not about suppression or denial. Difficult thoughts will arise. That is the nature of being human. But there is a profound difference between acknowledging a thought and believing it, between noticing fear and becoming consumed by it. A man in his late 70s shared that for decades, his mind had been ruled by a harsh inner critic, a voice that constantly reminded him of his failures, his inadequacies, his mistakes. He assumed this voice was simply telling the truth. Then he learned to step back and observe it. There's that critical voice again, he would note, almost with gentle amusement. It's saying the same things it always says. The voice still appeared. But its power had been broken. He was no longer its prisoner. He had become its observer. This is freedom. Not the absence of difficult thoughts, but the wisdom to know that you are not bound by them. You are the sky, vast and unchanging. Thoughts are merely clouds, passing through. Part 5. Protect your emotional energy, guarding the sacred flame within. There is a teaching story about a Zen master named Nanin who received a university professor who came to inquire about Zen. Nanin served tea. He poured his visitor's cup full, and then kept on pouring. The tea overflowed the cup, spilled onto the table, and began dripping onto the floor. The professor watched until he could no longer restrain himself. It is over full. No more will go in. Like this cup, Nanan said, "You are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" This story speaks to the importance of what we allow into our inner lives, the ideas, the energies, the influences that fill our cup. If the cup is constantly filled with negativity, worry, and the demands of others, there is no room for peace. There is no space for joy. Emotional energy is a precious resource, perhaps the most precious resource you possess. It determines everything: how you feel upon waking, how you respond to challenges, the quality of your relationships, and your capacity for happiness. And yet, many people give this energy away carelessly, without discernment, until they find themselves depleted and wondering why life feels so heavy. Buddhist wisdom encourages careful attention to what nourishes and what drains. Some relationships leave you feeling uplifted, inspired, and more fully yourself. Others leave you exhausted, anxious, or somehow diminished. Some environments feel peaceful and supportive. Others feel chaotic and toxic. This is not judgment. It is discernment. It is the same wisdom that recognizes some foods nourish the body while others harm it. The soul, too, requires proper nourishment. Protecting emotional energy means learning to say no when necessary, even when it feels uncomfortable. It means recognizing that you cannot help everyone if you have destroyed yourself in the attempt. It means understanding that boundaries are not walls that keep love out, but fences that protect the garden so that flowers may grow. There was an elderly woman who spent her life caring for everyone around her, her children, her grandchildren, her neighbors, and her church community. She never said no. She never considered her own needs. And gradually, the light within her dimmed. She became exhausted, resentful, and physically unwell. Through gentle guidance, she learned that caring for herself was not selfish but necessary. She began to take walks alone. She learned to decline requests that depleted her. She created small pockets of stillness in her days. And something remarkable happened. The more she protected her own energy, the more she had to genuinely offer others. Her giving became joyful rather than obligatory. Her presence became peaceful rather than strained. This is the paradox of self-care. By protecting your own flame, you become a greater light for others. Part 6. Letting go of resistance cultivates joy, learning to flow with life. There is wisdom in the natural world that speaks directly to the human heart. Consider the oak tree and the bamboo. The oak is strong, rigid, unyielding. When fierce winds come, the oak stands firm, refusing to bend. But if the wind is strong enough, the oak will break, its strength becoming its destruction. The bamboo, in contrast, bends with the wind. It yields, flows, and moves with the force rather than against it. And when the storm passes, the bamboo returns to standing, unbroken, alive. Life brings storms. This is not pessimism, it is a simple truth. Illness comes. Loss comes. Disappointment comes. The question is not whether difficulties will arise, but how you will meet them. Inner resistance is the belief, often unconscious, that life should be easy, that things should go according to plan, that suffering is somehow unfair or wrong. This resistance does not prevent difficulty. It multiplies suffering. It takes a challenging situation and adds a layer of mental anguish on top of it. This shouldn't be happening. I can't handle this. Why is life so hard? These thoughts, however natural they feel, are forms of resistance. They are the mind fighting against reality, demanding that life be different from what it is. And this fight is exhausting. Buddhist teaching offers a different way: flow. Like water, like bamboo, like the wise farmer who responded to every twist of fate with maybe. This flowing is not passivity. It is not giving up or refusing to act. It is releasing the inner tension that comes from demanding that life conform to expectations. When you stop resisting, something unexpected happens. Energy that was consumed by fighting becomes available for living. Creativity that was blocked by frustration begins to flow. Solutions that seemed invisible suddenly appear. There was a retired gentleman who had planned for years what his later life would look like: travel with his wife, time with grandchildren, and a peaceful routine. Then his wife received a diagnosis that changed everything. Suddenly, he was a caregiver, his plans dissolved, his future uncertain. For months, he resisted. He raged against the unfairness, mourned his lost expectations, and felt crushed by resentment. And then, gradually, he learned to let go. Not of his love for his wife, not of his efforts to help her, but of his insistence that life should have been different. In that surrender, he found something unexpected, moments of profound connection with his wife he might never have experienced otherwise. Depths of love he didn't know he possessed. A purpose that, while different from what he had imagined, was equally meaningful. This is the gift of releasing resistance. Life may not match your expectations, but it may offer something you never knew to expect. Part 7. Gratitude shifts perspective towards wisdom, the practice that transforms everything. There is a story of a blind man who always carried a lantern when walking at night. People often mocked him. "Why do you carry a lantern? You cannot see. The light is useless to you." The blind man smiled gently and replied, "The lantern is not for me. It is for you. I carry it so that you will not stumble into me in the darkness. My blindness is no reason for others to suffer." This man, who might easily have dwelt on what he lacked, instead focused on what he could offer. He practiced gratitude not by denying his difficulty, but by finding meaning within it. Gratitude is not pretending that life is perfect. It is not forcing positivity in the face of genuine pain. It is something deeper and more honest. It is the intentional practice of turning attention toward what is present and meaningful, even when much is absent and painful. The mind has a natural tendency, a negativity bias, to focus on problems, dangers, and lacks. This served survival purposes long ago when noticing threats was essential for staying alive. But in modern life, this bias often creates suffering where none exists. The mind catalogs everything wrong while ignoring the quiet blessings that surround it. Gratitude is the gentle correction of this tendency. It does not deny difficulty. It simply widens the lens, allowing both the struggle and the blessing to be seen. Consider a morning. Perhaps there is pain in the body, worry in the mind, uncertainty about the future. These are real. They deserve acknowledgement. But what else is present? The warmth of morning light, the gift of another day, the ability to hear, to taste, to touch, the existence of someone, somewhere, who cares. The countless moments of kindness received throughout a lifetime. When gratitude becomes a practice, something shifts. Not immediately, perhaps, and not dramatically. But gradually, the inner landscape changes. Resilience grows. Bitterness softens. The capacity for joy, even small joy, expands. A woman who had experienced tremendous loss, her husband, her health, and her financial security, shared what sustained her through the darkest times. Each night, before sleep, she would find 3 things from the day to be grateful for. Some nights, the list was simple: a warm meal, a phone call from a friend, a sunset seen through the window. Some nights, she struggled to find even one thing. But she persisted. Over time, she noticed that her mind began looking for things to add to the list throughout the day. She became, without trying, a person who noticed beauty, kindness, and goodness. Her circumstances had not changed. Her perception had transformed. This is the alchemy of gratitude. It does not make pain disappear. It makes space for something else to coexist with the pain. Part 8. Walking the path of peaceful happiness, bringing it all together. And so, here we stand, at the end of this journey through ancient wisdom applied to modern struggle. The path to staying happy and positive when life hurts the most is not a single technique or a magic solution. It is a way of being, cultivated gently over time, through practices that become as natural as breathing. It begins with presence, anchoring the mind to the here and now, where peace actually lives. It continues with release, setting down the burdens that were never yours to carry. It deepens through acceptance, the profound freedom that comes from no longer fighting with reality. The path is shaped by awareness of thought, recognizing that you are the gardener of your mind, choosing which seeds to water. It is protected by honoring your emotional energy, understanding that caring for yourself enables genuine care for others. The way opens wider through releasing resistance, learning to flow with life like bamboo in the wind. And it is illuminated by gratitude, the practice that transforms perspective from scarcity to abundance, from despair to quiet hope. None of this requires perfection. None of this requires immediate mastery. The Buddha himself reminded students that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Each moment is a new opportunity to practice. Each breath is a fresh beginning. And here is the beautiful truth: you have already begun. By listening to these words, by opening your heart to these teachings, by allowing yourself to consider that peace is possible even in pain, you have taken steps upon the path. There is a Buddhist blessing that says, "May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering." This blessing is offered to you now. Not as a distant hope, but as a present possibility. Happiness is not something to be achieved in some far-off future. Peace is not waiting on the other side of solved problems. They are available here, now, in the midst of whatever you are facing. Let this truth settle into your heart like morning light entering a room that has been dark too long. You are not alone in your struggles. You are held by the wisdom of those who walked this path before. You are supported by the infinite capacity for healing that lives within your own spirit. Even now, even here, even in this moment, peace is possible. It always has been. It always will be. Thank you for walking this path together. These teachings are gifts passed down through generations, and now they have been shared with you. Perhaps something here has touched your heart or offered comfort during a challenging time. If this message has brought you peace, please consider sharing it with someone who might also need to hear these words. A friend going through difficulty, a family member carrying heavy burdens, or simply someone who could use a moment of gentle wisdom. Subscribing to Buddha Coha ensures you will continue receiving these stories and teachings whenever you need them. And your comments sharing how these ideas have touched your life create a community of mutual support and encouragement. May you carry these teachings not just as words remembered, but as wisdom lived. May each day bring moments of presence, lightness, and gratitude. And may you always remember that within you, beneath all the struggle and the pain, there is a place of unshakable peace. It has always been there. It is there now. It is waiting, patiently and lovingly, for you to come home. Be well. Be peaceful. Be at ease.